Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, we just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you all for watching. We truly appreciate your support. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, it's totally free, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest stories. Now, with all that said, let's jump straight into the story.
Century Park Mall, a skeletal monument to 90s consumerism, stood on the fringes of Oakhaven. The fire had ravaged its west wing years ago, leaving a gaping maw of charred metal and broken dreams. The rest of the mall, untouched by the blaze, remained a ghostly echo of its former self: silent escalators, darkened storefronts, and the lingering scent of stale popcorn mingled eerily with the damp odor of decay. A heavy silence permeated the mall, broken only by the hum of the antiquated surveillance system and the whisper of wind whistling through shattered windows. This wasn't just emptiness, it was an active, watchful stillness. Mark Willis, a man weathered by bad luck and poor choices, needed a job. Desperately. The night security position at Century Park Mall was less than ideal, but it was a paycheck. He envisioned quiet nights, maybe catching up on some reading, a far cry from his previous job as a bouncer at a biker bar. His first few shifts were unsettling but uneventful. The building groaned and sighed, metal expanding and contracting with the fluctuating night temperatures. Flickering fluorescent lights cast long, dancing shadows that played tricks on his eyes. Strange drafts snaked through the corridors, raising goosebumps on his arms even on warmer nights. He chalked it up to the building's age and disrepair. Then came the lullaby. It started subtly, a faint static overlaid with a barely audible melody on the old PA system. He dismissed it as radio interference at first, but it grew clearer each night. A childish voice, small and wavering, sang a few bars of the song. It was a lullaby, one that tugged at a forgotten corner of his memory, a tune his grandmother used to sing to him when he was a child. It was a comforting memory, but its presence in the desolate mall was undeniably unsettling. The lullaby was just the beginning. Soon he began hearing footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoing from the far end of the deserted corridors, always just out of sight. He would rush to the location, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, but find nothing. Just empty hallways and the lingering feeling of being watched. Then there were the monitors. The security system was ancient, grainy black and white images flickering on the multiple screens in the surveillance room. One night he noticed something strange. One of the cameras, focused on a department store mannequin in the old Sears, seemed to be malfunctioning. The screen would go blank for a few seconds, then flicker back on, showing the mannequin in a slightly different position. At first it was subtle, a tilted head, a raised arm. But each night, the changes became more pronounced, more deliberate. The elevator, a relic from a bygone era, started dinging on its own. It would sit on the ground floor, doors opening and closing, the empty car casting an eerie glow into the darkened mall. Mark tried disabling it, cutting the power, but nothing worked. It continued its spectral routine, a mechanical ghost trapped in its vertical prison. He tried to rationalizing everything. The lullaby was probably a cross signal being picked up by the old wiring. The footsteps were just the building settling. The mannequin was probably just his imagination, fueled by sleep deprivation and the inherent creepiness of the place. And the elevator? Well, that was just plain broken. But the feeling of unease persisted, growing stronger with each passing night. He started spending more time in the surveillance room, huddled in front of the monitors, his nerves stretched taut. He began keeping a logbook, documenting the strange occurrences, hoping to find some logical explanation. His final entry, scribbled hastily in the flickering light of the surveillance room, read, "The mannequin, it was facing the camera tonight. I swear it was smiling. The lullaby, it's louder. I think something's in here with me." The next morning, Mark Willis didn't leave. His shift ended at 6 a.m., but he was nowhere to be found. The security footage showed him entering the mall the previous evening, but there was no record of him ever leaving. No alarms were triggered. His car was still in the parking lot. He had simply vanished. Tom Garcia, a man of logic and reason, scoffed at the rumors surrounding Century Park Mall. He needed the money, and he wasn't about to let some ghost stories scare him away from a steady paycheck. He was told Mark just didn't show up one day, a vague explanation that raised more questions than answers. But Tom, a pragmatist, brushed it aside. People disappeared all the time. He started his first shift with a healthy dose of skepticism. He armed himself with a thermos of coffee, a flashlight, and a can-do attitude. He patrolled the deserted corridors, listening for any unusual sounds, but found nothing but silence. He spent hours in the surveillance room, watching the grainy black and white images, searching for any sign of the missing Mark Willis. He quickly encountered the same unsettling events Mark had documented. The static on the PA system, the faint strains of the lullaby, the echoing footsteps in the distance. He tried to ignore them, to convince himself that they were just products of his imagination, but the feeling of unease began to creep in. The mannequin in the old Sears store became his personal obsession. He checked the security footage obsessively, noting the subtle changes in its pose. One night he froze. The mannequin was facing the camera, its blank, lifeless eyes staring directly at him. And in the corner of the screen he thought he saw something else, a fleeting shadow lurking behind it. Driven by a morbid curiosity, Tom decided to investigate. He grabbed his flashlight and headed towards the old Sears store. The air grew colder as he approached, a palpable chill that seeped into his bones. He shone his flashlight on the mannequin, examining it closely. It seemed ordinary, a plastic figure dressed in outdated clothing. But as he stepped back, he noticed something etched into the dusty floor behind the mannequin. A name. Mark. Scratched repeatedly into the concrete as if in a desperate frenzy. He returned to the surveillance room, a knot of fear tightening in his stomach. He started digging through the drawers, searching for any clues, and found Mark's logbook. He devoured the entries, his eyes widening with each page. He read about the lullaby, the footsteps, the mannequin, and the growing sense of dread that had consumed Mark. The last entry ended abruptly mid-sentence. But it was what he found on the wall behind the desk that truly chilled him to the bone. Scratched into the plaster over and over again was the name, Mark. The same frantic, desperate script he had seen on the floor of the Sears. Then he saw it. A flicker of movement at the edge of his vision. He spun around, flashlight beam dancing across the darkened corridor. He saw a figure, indistinct and shadowy, slip through the wall. It wasn't human. It was a being of pure darkness, a void in the shape of a man. Tom stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew then that the stories were true, that something evil lurked within the walls of Century Park Mall. He grabbed his phone, his hands trembling, and dialed his brother's number. He left a message, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm not alone. I saw him. I saw Mark." The next day Tom Garcia was gone. His gear was still in the surveillance room, his thermos of coffee half empty on the desk. His car remained in the parking lot, next to Mark Willis's. He had vanished without a trace, swallowed by the darkness of Century Park Mall. The surveillance cameras looped on static, the grainy black and white images a silent testament to the horrors that unfolded within the deserted mall. And somewhere on a job board a new listing appeared. Night security needed, Century Park Mall, starting immediately. It wasn't long before Alicia Monroe, a night shift veteran with 10 years of experience and zero tolerance for nonsense, applied. She had worked graveyard shifts in morgues, correctional facilities, and derelict hotels. A haunted mall? Oh, please give me a break. Alicia wasn't like the others, she wasn't desperate. She was curious. She had read the online forums, the ghost hunter blogs, even the thread titled, "The Smiling Mannequin, Real or ARG?" The disappearances of Mark Willis and Tom Garcia were quietly covered up, but word always leaks out. She accepted the job, convinced it was either a prank, a corporate psyop, or something she could exploit for a documentary. On her third night, she began to notice oddities. The PA system crackled to life with what sounded like reverse speech. A camera panned slowly on its own. The old elevator dinged at 3:33 a.m. The mannequin had moved again. But Alicia had a body cam, and backup batteries, and 2 separate flashlights. She began speaking aloud to the presence. "I'm not fucking afraid of you. You're just echoes. Leftovers. You don't do anything." But then she found something the others hadn't. In the utility crawlspace behind the Sears, she discovered an old service hatch. Inside was a stack of VHS tapes, labeled only by shift dates going back decades. The top tape read, 14th of September 19979, J. Monroe. Her last name. She played it. The grainy footage showed a woman, slim, dark-haired, wearing a 90s security uniform, walking through the Sears department store. Her name badge read, Joan Monroe, Alicia's mother. But that was impossible. Her mother had disappeared before Alicia was born. Everyone said she ran away. In the footage, Joan wandered the mall, flashlight in hand. The lullaby played faintly. The mannequin stood in the same place. Joan turned toward the camera, suddenly aware of being watched, and the footage cut to static. Alicia watched the remaining tapes in horror. More guards. More disappearances. Some pleaded with the camera. Some laughed, drunk or defiant. All vanished the same way. In the final tape, labeled September 15, 2020, Mark Willis, the screen flickered. For the briefest second, Alicia saw not Mark but herself standing behind the surveillance desk. She rewound it, watched it again. Still her. She checked the logbook. The last page, previously blank, now had a scribbled note in her own handwriting. You shouldn't have come here. It wants the bloodline. It's in our blood. Suddenly the power cut. Every monitor died except one, the Sears camera. The mannequin was gone. She turned slowly. The surveillance room door creaked open on its own. And the lullaby began to play, this time from inside the room. Century Park Mall wasn't haunted by a ghost. To be honest, it was the ghost. Built on the ruins of a failed Cold War project, a psychological testing ground meant to study mass commercial hypnosis through architecture, sound, and light patterns, the mall's design was never meant for shopping. It was a conduit, a structure meant to thin the barrier between realities. The fire in the West Wing didn't start from faulty wiring. It began when an experiment succeeded. The lullaby? A mnemonic trigger, implanted in the minds of test subjects and their children. The mannequin? A symbolic avatar of the Watcher, the entity the project accidentally summoned but could never control. It doesn't kill. It absorbs. Remakes. Every new guard isn't just a replacement. They're bait. Each one drawn back by something embedded in their bloodline, memories, or history, just like Alicia. That's why the job is still open. That's why you're seeing this story now.
Ready for spine-chilling tales that will haunt your thoughts? Subscribe to Forgotten Storyteller for eerie narrations, unsettling mysteries, and haunting stories you won't forget. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Join us, if you dare,